Well, now today we want to talk about a couple of families, like families of singing. There are several different ways that people have been successful singing, and one of them that I've talked about a lot is the breath stop method. And the great exercise to identify that is to leak air, pa, and then not leak air, pa. So if I go pa, 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 and then I go ba, 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 how did I stop my air from leaking? Anyway, that's one of the great vocalizing techniques historically, is to use a breath stop. And they asked the famous Adelina Patti, what do you think about when you sing? She said, don't sing breathy. That's all she knew. But that's all she needed to know. She was considered the most perfect vocalist in history, right? So if I do my breath stop, now, where did that one just happen? See? I've demonstrated that before in things like the tone flowers on the lips, things like that. So if I go pa, ba, I can stop the breath right there and say la, you know, now, as we go along, believe it or not, there's another whole family of exercises that we do, so we can sing both ways if we want to. This one is a little bit more problematical because it can distort the phonation, so we have to be very careful how we do it. So I'm going to say I, like I did it, and then I'm going to take it and just slide it down my spine. Now remember, sliding back and down was a very, very successful vocal technique. Came out of the Cotogni school, which was originally the Pezzacchini school. And the idea is to, when you slide back and down, that you go from a breath stop control method to a motion, keep it in motion control method. So if I go, there's no breath stop. I didn't stop. I'm just flowing, sliding down my spine like a waterfall. So if I go, now, we have to find out, if we can learn how to do them both, then which one do we like, which one is most suitable for the voice of the individual, and what repertoire are we singing. When I used to do some of those really big, heavy Wagner parts, I would cheat a little bit. And I would do an inhalation method that is described by starting to inhale and then singing while you're inhaling. So if I go, you can hear that it makes my voice slightly darker, slightly modified phonation. It's like, that's a true motion technique. I'm just singing ah, and I'm letting it slide down my back, and I'm not doing anything to cause anything else to happen. It's just, I'm just singing. So it's like talking. How are you today? I'm feeling fine. But I'm talking by letting it slide down my spine all the way to my tailbone. Without wanting to confuse anyone, I will point out that it's possible to do both at the same time. You can slide back a little bit, halfway down, and then use a breath stop. Christa Ludwig, the famous German mezzo, did that all the time. She sang between her shoulder blades. So if I go, so I went down, I went back and down, I slid back and down until the middle of my back, sort of between my shoulder blades, and then I used a breath stop. A little confusing. On the other hand, it works like a charm. If you're in a situation where you're engaged to sing and they're giving you all kinds of weird, different kinds of repertoire to sing, and you have to figure out how to sing it, believe me, it's nice to know some of these things. One thing you can say about Christa Ludwig, whether you liked her or not, was she could sing anything, and did. She sang soprano, alternating between soprano mezzo roles all the time. And she'd go from Lady Macbeth, which is a great big dramatic Verdi soprano, to something like Cherubino in Marriage of Figaro, and she would do it absolutely just perfectly, beautifully, right? So that was a breath stopper, but not until it got to the middle of her back. See? Now, we talked about some of these singers. Mario Delmonico stopped right here. He used to demonstrate like this. Ah, 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 ah. So if I go, ah, so that's a breath stop. La, la. See? The Valsalva maneuver is defined as being an exhalation that is stopped by closing the throat. If I do that, and I close my throat, now all I have to do is maintain this reaction I got in my diaphragm. And then relax my throat, but maintain that. All of a sudden I have a technique that's got a breath stop sitting right on my sternum. You see Bierling's technique, right? He kept that free by doing the pound. We talked about the pound in the last video, but Bierling did that. And he shook his flanks and kept his voice free and buoyant, but maintained everything here. That was his control mechanism, was to hold it right on the sternum. It's also Tetrazzini. It's also a number of great singers who sang there. Lily Lehman said just to sing on the chest. Aureliano Pertile said to sing on the pectoral muscles. If I do that, my voice gets a little bit plumper, and if I'm going to sing some dramatic music, then I'll use those as long as it doesn't hurt my throat. And a lot of people like it. That's not that. Don't just say it's wrong, because a lot of people like it, and then some people don't like it. No, I like you to say ah, not oh, right? Now it's Melchior, who was the greatest of the Helden tenors historically, right? He used a sort of a modified Garcia method. He used this, huh, huh. So that's an exaggerated Valsalva maneuver. It is very, very firm and very much established, huh, right at the base of the sternum, and then you pronounce your words within that space. Huh. So I've got an open trachea all the way down to here. Huh. And then I say my words in there. Huh. La. So it comes a la. Doesn't sound very much like the 17 or 18-year-old young duke, does it? See? So Melchior said to me, "You must not try to do what I do, and I must not try to do what you do. We must do what we do." See? So the idea is you're studying with some of these fabulous singers, which I did, and someone like Helge Rosweiger could do anything. Anything, you name it. He could do light, lyric, Mozart, dramatic, anything, right? And he had a doctorate in chemistry. He was a very brilliant man, and he really did figure out a way to sort of please all the people all the time in every role. And I've forgotten the number. The number of the roles he sang, actually performed, was enormous. I did 64 myself, plus a lot of big concert repertoire, like Verdi Requiem and Das Lied von der Erde and Mahler and things like that. And I remember at the time I was amazed at the vast repertoire that Rosweiger sang, and sang it all just great. They called him the Golden Sword. Now, when I worked with him, he made me pound all the time. And I showed that in the last video that I did. But the idea is to keep the voice buoyant and keep the breath buoyant down inside the body, and don't let the breath lock up. If it locks up anywhere, it's like a drum full of concrete. There's no air inside to vibrate. So you must keep your air free. But you think about some of the way these people sing, it's really amazing. If I lean on my pectoral muscles and take a big breath, behind me go, la. What do you think? Is that like Melchior? Melchior would be, la. And Petre would be, la, la. See? Bierling would be, la. Delmonico would do it like that. La. So there are all these different ways to sing, and there are families of singing. And the one I wanted to talk a little bit about today was the breath stop, or keeping it in motion. If I sing while I'm still exhaling, you tell me, is that a breath stop method or is that a motion method? La, la. What is that one? What if I sing while I'm inhaling? Suddenly I'll just start singing in the middle of a big inhalation. I go, la, la, la. What family is that? See? So if I'm doing certain music, I find one is more efficient than the other. And some music, you can do either one. If you're having success with one lady, you do that one. If somebody said, I couldn't hear you very well, or your voice sounded like it was too big and didn't fit the music, what do? I mean, how much can you change your voice, your breathing, your phonation, your technique, and your brain? Because somewhere, even in tenors, there's a brain up there somewhere. They said, you know, the tenors have hollow brain cavities. There's no brain. It's just a resonating space. But anyway, if I'm going to do this sort of thing, I really need to know what's going on. So if I sing while I'm still breathing in, what happens? La, 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 la. Right? If I sing while I'm breathing out, what happens? La, 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 la. What is that? What did I do? Think about it. One is motion and continuous motion, it doesn't stop. And the other has a very definite stop. And it stops my breath, and let's just say it keeps it from leaking or interfering. But I've got breath stops all over the place. Now what if I use the circle of the chakras? That's a breath stop. What if I want to use a continuous motion? I can't do it up and stop. I have to start up here and go down and continue the motion. So you see, now we've got one that's like 180 degrees in the opposite direction. So if I've got movement and I want motion and I want to use this one, I go la, 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 la. It depends so much on the teacher. And Richard Tucker used to say, never study voice or let anybody coach you who has not been at it for years and years very successfully. The coaches should have worked with lots of very successful professional singers. And the teacher should have been a professional singer who sang a huge repertoire for many, many, many years. Well, how many people are like that? How many people? There's a saying, those who can do and those who cannot teach. Let's face it. I ended up teaching because of health problems, and I'm not alone. Any number of people have had to stop for one reason or another. But I am fortunate because I was a little kid on the block that taught everybody else how to shoot marbles. I've always been a teacher, and I love teaching. The greatest thrill in the world for me is to impart information. And I hope then that's why I always worry I have the right information, or at least some good information, right? So, if you're singing some of this German music, what do I do? Because you have all kinds of problems with German music. Now, if I do something that uses a real suspension, restrained method, like I go, Ich ist ein Bächlein rauschen wohl aus dem Felsenquell. Is that a breath stop or is that a motion method? What if I deliberately use a motion method? Ich ist ein Bächlein rauschen wohl aus dem Felsenquell. Or a deliberate stopping method. Ich ist ein Bächlein rauschen wohl aus dem Felsenquell. So what in the world was that thing I did first? It was a suspension method. So we have another method that we can learn and use. What happens to that is, if you use the upper ribs and you hold the other upper ribs out and keep it suspended, you'll sound like a leader singer. You won't sound like an opera singer. So there have been some very successful singers who used all of these techniques, but you will have your own preference and you will have something that's suitable for you that may not be suitable for someone else. So that's the reason Richard Tucker was talking about. These teachers have to have a lot of experience. When you've sung hundreds and hundreds of performances of a lot of roles, different styles, you not only are singing for yourself and surviving, but you're listening to your colleagues all the time. And you hear which colleague had success and which one has more success and which one has no success, and what kind of sound are they making and what does their resonance sound like. Some people sound great if they sing in the nose. Ma, 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 ma. Why can't I sing there? So Caruso said very simply on about page 3 or so of his book, never sing into the nasal cavity. It's against all the rules of song. Why? The main reason back in those days was you can't hear the voice. The voice does not carry over a big orchestra if it's nasal. That means that the voice is not resonating up here, it's resonating down there. If I resonate down here, no matter how hard you try, all you're doing is putting your voice in a place where you can't be heard over a big orchestra. Or if you are heard, it's a very thin, little, uninteresting sound. You want to say, ah, if I sing, ah, my nose is still stopped up. So now we get into something about singing is inhaling, and let's get the inhalation going. And the inhaling is one of those descriptions of the motion that you're supposed to maintain while you're singing. Singing is inhaling, sliding back and down, right? You got all these phrases about going in, drink the tone in. Those all describe a certain motion method that things go in and continue in. So if I do that, the minute I go, my voice is not in my nose anymore. My resonance climbed out of here and went up to there. So there are all kinds of ways to get up there. One is by using vocalises. Hung, ah, it's in my nose. Hung, ah, ah. So if I want to get out of my nose, I have to go up and over and get it up here in the third eye. So I go, hung, ah. Which method is that? Was that a breath stop method or a motion method? Because I did move something and put it up somewhere, right? So this is for us to all work and find out what is going on with our own voices and what do we do. It's interesting that when you sing, sometimes you have to survive. Some of the music is so big and difficult, you have to be careful. You must not get tired. The one that I did, Don Carlo and Queen of Spades by Tchaikovsky, and Meistersinger from Nuremberg, which is 5.5 hours long. You see me say the worst thing that can happen to me in these pieces is that I get tired. If I get tired, they are frantic. The Queen of Spades, you won't believe, is a madman acting role. It's like singing Tosca 15 times. It's unbelievable. And Don Carlo's about like singing Tosca like 10 times. Let me tell you, because you're up above the staff all night, 49 high B flats, 9 B naturals, and about 500 A's and G sharps, and you're like this all night. And the last thing comes up, it's all mezzo voce in the passaggio. So you have to know what you're doing, and you have to figure out a way to survive this stuff, or you shouldn't sing it, right? So the idea is which one is more strenuous for us? Which one do we have to take a day or two off between performances? Why do the Italians have a tradition of always resting a few days between performances, and the Germans had a tradition of singing every day, sometimes rehearsing every day and singing every night? Roswanger sang 3 times a day for 55 years, 7 days a week. Never canceled one rehearsal, nothing. I asked him how is that possible, and he said yoga. I said, what do you mean yoga? He said, turned out he did 3 hours of yoga every day. And that's sitting and going, and all of that exaggerated breathing that you do, and all of that posturing that makes the body respond a certain way. And he taught me, for instance, the lip clamp. One of the things he taught me. So we go, now inside the back of my neck, I'm saying ah, e, o, u. So if I do that, is that a breath stop method or a motion method? Try figuring that one out. What do you think? Most of the motion methods always have to do with sliding back and down, singing back and down, drink the tone in, right? You want to get so that you go la. If I go ma, I get a great big reaction in the front right here. So on that particular exercise, Mr. Rosfanger was using a breath stop. Delmonico used a breath stop. U.C. Burling used a breath stop. On the other hand, Burling would turn right around and sing some beautiful lyric piece, and he'd be sliding back and down. So some guys, he was the best bass singer I think I ever heard, best technical singer that I ever heard, because it was always beautiful, always gorgeous, always fantastic, and always there. And I got to New York the year that he came back to the Metropolitan Opera after 10 years. And I heard him sing everything he sang at the Met, that whatever 1 or 2 seasons, and the guy was incredible, an incredible vocalist, and very strong. He's really been singing since he was a little child, right? But if I'm doing this, la, la, sliding back and down. If I do it with the breath stop, let's say on my pectoral muscles, la, is one better than the other or just different, right? Giovanni Martinelli told me to begin the exhalation and then start singing. So I go, la, la. They called him the Hammer, by the way. His voice was so huge in the theater, so that method, the voice carries like a rocket. Of course, it didn't take me long to try it out a few places either, right? So the idea is for the singers to experiment a little bit. If you slide back and down, la. Now listen to my phonation. What kind of phonation is that? La, 1, 2, 3, miroir. So that is a phonation that is very good for sliding back and down, and it works also the other way around. If I want to be able to slide back and down, I'm going to have to sacrifice dark phonation. And I'm going to have to let it go, hello, how are you today? Not, hello, how are you today? I have to get rid of that. See? So the minute I go, oh. Now you have the sighing method. Keep a side right here. Is that a breath stop method or is it a motion method? La. Which one is it? See? If I sigh from my navel down, I get la. Or if I sigh sliding back and down, what about that one? La. Now you decide which one of those is a breath stop, or is it not? Or is one of them, or all of them, could it be motion with the breath stop? Or are they strictly motion techniques? So you have to know what you're doing when you're doing it. You take a big breath behind you. That is the general rule of every great singer that I ever talked to in all those years. I mean, I'm 83 years old, and I started doing this when I was 19. So it's been a long time, and I've talked to a lot of singers and heard a lot of singers, and I sang with a lot of singers. And I sang a lot of roles myself. So the idea is, when you talk to these singers, what's the first thing that comes out of the mouth? Get a good breath under that. Yep. First thing. Belcourt said, yeah, but you're not breathing. You must breathe, breathe, breathe. Right? And Rosweiler said, the flanks? Where are the flanks? You don't have any flanks. You do this. The voice doesn't do anything. It must go, oh. It must be sitting down there and very, very fragile. So if I do that, what's that got to do with sliding back and down and breath stopping? See? So if we are going to do some of these techniques and we're going to think about them, we're going to figure out how in the world to use them, we hope that we'll have some possibilities, right? Some of it is a little more dramatic. Let's say something like, let's see, always third act in Bohemian, I like that. But if I go, in va nascondo la mia vera tortura. Which one is that? In va nascondo la mia vera tortura. Which one is that? How about this one? In vani va nascondo la mia vera tortura. Which one is which? See? It's a mistake to think you can't sing dramatically in either one of them, and you can't sing lyrically in either one of them. If you do something like the famous Messe di Voce, the crescendo de crescendo, and you go, now which one is that? How about this one? So I can use both methods of breath stop and motion, and I can somehow manage to make the effect of a crescendo de crescendo. Okay? Anyway, that's something for everybody to think about a little bit, and you can always write me questions. I'll try to answer them, or maybe I'll even do another video if you can stand one more. Okay? All right. All the best. Bye.